session there set up. Brilliant. Okay, so fingers crossed, you've got yourself at your test group. Let's move on. Almost there. Please note that the group ID is unique. So the example here shows one ID, but you will have your own unique ID. That's fine. Okay, and whilst we're just accessing the GUI, I've been asked to mention the fact that the GitLab IDE is changing. We won't be using it in the workshop, but since you've got the ultimate license, it's worth having a quick click and play around after the workshop maybe. The new IDE has been updated to be Visual Studio Code, which is fantastic. And we do have coming features which will allow you to do remote development as well. So that is code execution during development on a remote system. And also Code Complete is coming very shortly. As you know, we release every month new features, and it's on the list coming. Code Complete is AI assisted coding, and as you type, the IDE will actually help you or assist you with suggested code. And we hope people are going to love these features, so keep an eye out on those on coming updates. You may have accidentally opted out of the new IDE, but we recommend you opt in and do check it out. Okay, the next step of this lap, or this warm-up lap, now we have our GitLab environment set up. You should all have your groups configured. We will need to fork or take a copy of the content of our work repository. You'll be needing this for the coming exercises, so let's get on and do that. The link will be posted into the chat, but you'll need to navigate to this particular URL, and that is the master project. So go ahead and click on that and see if you can get there now.
And I'll be posting the link in the chat. Just 1 second.
Yeah, thanks, Logan. Fantastic. Thanks for that, Logan.
Yep.
We go to that link. I'll just post it in there. You should see this project. What we're going to do is we are going to take a fork copy of this project. So I'll just run that through with you. All you need to do is click on the fork. You'll be presented with a new screen for forking. You can pretty much leave everything as it is. The most important thing you do is when you're forking the project into your own project space, you'll need to select the namespace, and you'll need to select the namespace that is for this demo. I've got 2 here because I've done some previous ones, but you should just have the Git Learn and Lab environments. And I've selected my created group. The reason this is important, because this environment, when we run the lab, it will execute in GitLab's compute space, right? And everything's set up ready for this workshop. If you do accidentally copy this into your own space, you may not have the configuration or the settings that are able to run some of the exercises we're going to do. You can leave the project slug as it is, visibility left to private, and then you just click the fork project. And pretty instantaneously, we'll see that this project has been forked. If you click up at the top here, you can see on the breadcrumbs, underneath our session, we've actually got a copy now of the workshop project. Okay. So I'll just give you a few seconds, check that you've got that. Maybe drop us a got there on the chat. We can keep an eye. Brilliant. See the question there already. So yeah, do fork it as private. I mean, you can do it as public if you want. We'll be cleaning this space up in 48 hours anyway. But yeah, probably better off private. Don't worry if you selected public, it won't matter too much. Give everyone a few more seconds on that. Fantastic, yeah. Brilliant. Okay, next up, because we've gone and forked this project, it is still currently linked to the original project. And for the sake of this workshop, we're going to just disconnect or remove that fork relationship. That will then enable us to make updates and changes to this project without affecting too much of the upstream. And to do that, I'm going to walk you through right now. We're just going to step through the menus. On the very left here, you can see at the bottom, we have the settings. If you click on that, a pop-up will appear. If you double click, you'll get it expanded below, don't worry, but you want to go into your general settings of this project. You should see this screen. Okay. We scroll down and click on advanced. Expand it, and that will expand all the advanced options for this project. And if we scroll down, you can see an option here to remove fork relationship. Okay, we want to go ahead and click the big red button. Exciting stuff, right? As a sort of fail-safe, GitLab will prompt you to enter the name of the project just to avoid maybe someone doing this unwittingly. So we want to do this. So do enter the name of your project. It should be workshop-project. And once you've got that typed in correctly, the confirm button will illuminate. You can go ahead and click that. And that will remove the fork relationship. And you'll see here that you've got a notification to indicate that's the case. Just give a few seconds for people to do that. And just to recap, under settings, under general, expanding the advanced settings, click on the remove fork relationship. Brilliant. I think we're there. Feel free to check in on chat if you've done that. Steady as she goes. Like to try and take a nice easy pace on the warm-up lap for sure. Okay, fantastic. We've completed the setup and the warm-up lap has been completed. You're ready to get racing. Let's get on to shifting left, a common term used in the DevOps industry. I think everyone very familiar with that. Just to recap on what we've just completed, in the warm-up lap, you've managed to set up the required lab resources so you can execute this workshop. And you've also made a project fork of the workshop materials. So you've got your own copy to fiddle around with and run through the exercises. So not bad going. Well done. You've made it this far. Let's talk about shifting left. The GitLab DevSecOps platform is specifically designed and continuously enhanced with each and every release and iteration to bring the best capabilities and practices to our developer communities. Shifting left is a fundamental DevOps practice and helps discover issues with code much earlier on in the delivery value stream, rather than finding problems later on when things can be a lot harder to correct and possibly more costly. Would you rather find out about a security problem now while you're working on the code, or would it be at 3 o'clock in the morning when you have a live incident and call out? I think I know which one I prefer. Shifting left can often take out much of the unnecessary and often stressful heroics, because you don't want people having to take extraordinary efforts to fix the big problems when they're looming at the other end. I'm sure many of you can relate to this and will probably have heard of this term. I'm quite familiar with it by now. I'm not sure how many of you have been wild camping, just like real wild camping, but for our conversation, let's say you're tasked with building a shelter in the woods. We have one type of wood at the base, and we're working along, building our comfy shelter. We find out somewhere during the build that the wood isn't stable enough for the shelter. Hopefully we discovered this earlier, before we spent too much time building the shelter, and certainly before it falls on us in the middle of the night, which is never fun. And speaking from experience, it's not fun at all. This is a shift left mentality and stems from the lean manufacturing practices. The earlier we know that there is a problem or a potential problem, the earlier we can address the problem. Our shelter was just an example, but imagine that you've got your shelter up and running and it's working fine for days. You walked away and it's fine for several weeks and months, and all of a sudden you have to go back and fix it. I'm not sure about you, but it takes a while sometimes, an embarrassingly long while, to figure out what it is I can do to fix it. When we look at our software development, by bringing activities such as security scans directly into the development flow, we are able to continue moving development forward without having to keep stepping back to figure out what we did and what needs to change in order to fix discovered security issues. I've had real world experiences of that. I've worked on several large deployments and large enterprises, and it's amazing how attitudes and projects can be vastly improved by cutting out all the waste and getting rid of problems sooner rather than later. I've worked extensively in the telco industry, and project deliveries used to take years, and discovering something is wrong later in the day can be catastrophic for the project. So shifting left is a game changer. So just like our shelter here, wouldn't it be nice to know that the type of wood we used at the very beginning was insufficient or not, rather than realizing later? With GitLab's shifting left mentality and numerous security scans, is easily for you to drive towards business outcomes without the risk of having to take higher risk or needing to backtrack on fixing security flaws. So let's consider this with a GitLab workflow. You've created a merge request with a ton of issues, and it requires approval from somebody in order to approve the merge. What else do we do? The person that's writing the code, the developer, can now receive immediate feedback about any issues within the code that they have been writing before they're able to move on to do anything else. This has been heavily driven by the likes of the Log4j and solar wind events. Security is becoming more of a risk. Your team is not likely to be as ready as it thinks it is. From the GitLab DevSecOps survey in 2022, we see that 57% of the team members have already shifted left with security or were planning to. And actually 43% of security professionals indicate they feel very unprepared for the future. The stats on the left side here indicate the development teams are utilizing shifting left mentality and increasing their security scanning and checks. Do go and check out our report by following the link here or scan the QR code. We're due a coffee break in a moment, so it's a good time to have a look. Of course, we see GitLab is uniquely positioned to leverage insight and control across the entire software delivery lifecycle to improve end-to-end security beyond shifting left. This really is the circle of life. If we think of it as a clock, we start at the top. We have developers creating new features and committing code, all providing value to the business. Every new commit is scanned or analyzed, and if we see these code changes, we have introduced anything that could put us at risk. At this time, we immediately address any new vulnerabilities and commit these updates directly to the code. And with active scanning through DAST and API fuzzing, etc., we are able to protect our environments moving forwards. Then we get the new business requirements driving code development, and the cycle starts all over again. We are uniquely positioned to leverage the insight and control across the entire software delivery cycle to improve end-to-end security beyond simply shifting left. hopefully you can see now that how shifting left, that is moving the detection and communication and feedback of all sorts of vulnerabilities to make them more immediate, helps the developer with their daily routine. Rapid feedback is a key DevOps principle, and for a good reason. It's worth noting that this is not just to create and develop code, but every human likes to have an impact. I haven't met a developer yet that likes fixing bugs all day long. They would much rather be working on new features and ideas. Okay, that's enough on the hard sell for shifting left from me. Let's dive in on our first hands-on exercise. The steps for this exercise are detailed within the issues board on the original work project. I'll bring those up in a second so you can see what I'm talking about. We're going to locate issue 1 and follow the detailed steps within. If you like to locate back to the original project, we can repost the URL back in the chat so you can locate that again. Thank you, Logan. And I'll bring that up on the screen and we can explore it together. Okay. This is the original project. Just make the screen a bit bigger. This is the project that we forked earlier on when we set up. If you click on issues, you should see that there are 6 issues. Each one of these issues are going to be our workshop hands-on tasks. And we'll be stepping through this throughout the course of this session. Starting with number 1, shifting left. If you'd like to go ahead and click on the title, this will bring up the tasks that we're going to execute. I like to keep 2 windows open. This will enable me to not only read through the task as we execute. If you aren't seeing the actual issues, when we fork the project, the issues are not copied. You need to go back to the original workshop URL, follow the link that's been posted in the chat, and open the issues there. You want to have one window open like this with the original project and issues we can read through, and I'll be explaining them as we go through them. And in the second window, I recommend having your actual project, your newly forked copy of the actual project itself. I'll give everyone a few seconds to get set up, perhaps. Brilliant. I think maybe a good idea if people could just drop into the chat if they're happy to move on, whether done or happy or a thumbs up. Go wild. Check. Yeah. Brilliant. Awesome. And just to recap, in your own project, you will not have the issues because when we made the fork of the repository, you don't copy the issues themselves. You need to go back to the original project. And that's where the issues can be located. And you can find those issues on the sidebar. And we're looking at task number 1, issue number 1. Cool. Okay. So let's step through it. We're going to make sure that we're on the main page of the project. You can do that by clicking the icon at the top. And once ready, you can use left-hand navigation menu and scroll and see if you can find the CI/CD. And we're going to click on editor. So that's the CI/CD menu item, and we're going to click on editor. Notice here, there is only a build stage. The editor is showing us what the current CI/CD configuration is. At the top of the screen, we can select the branch that we're looking at. Now, for this exercise, we've got a specially new branch set up. And we want you to select the completed pipeline. So at the top of the screen, you can select between the branches. We originally started on main, which has the minimal CI/CD configuration, and we're now going to switch to a completed pipeline branch. And we're going to have a little bit of a drill down and have a look at what's inside this completed pipeline branch. As you can see, a number of security templates have been brought in. We're extending our pipeline to have additional functionality. We can actually see what that looks like. Edit shows us the actual YAML file that's within the project and the configuration. But if we click on the view merged YAML, we'll see what the resultant merged YAML file looks like that will be processed for pipeline execution. here you can see the consolidated list of all the jobs and configurations that have been pulled in from all the includes. You can also click the branch icon here at the top and toggle access to the independent included files. You can click on any one of these files to see the source. If you click edit again, you're brought back to the normal editor. The other thing worth noting that's different in this particular branch for the CI/CD configuration, there are now 2 extra jobs at the end of the YAML, and these will both take place during the unit and test stages. And that's step 1, just to orientate yourself around how we're going to update the CI/CD pipeline. Please feel free to add any questions to the chat. If it sparked any interest or you want to know some more, we can certainly link you with information. So next off, we're going to generate a merge request. To actually manage the code, we're going to go to the repository menu here on the left. We're going to scoot down to branches, and when we click branches, we should be presented with a branches screen. It's worth noting, actually, before we make any changes here, it is worth verifying that you have removed the fork relationship. And just quickly, we can go back to settings, general, expand the advanced settings, and you should see there's no option at the bottom to remove the fork because we've done it already. Another way of checking is that if this was still had a fork reference, there is actually a information pane that would be here in blue, just to remind us that there is a reference and that we could update from the original fork. I don't have that anymore because I've removed that link. Just take a few seconds to make sure that's the case before we start making some changes. Going back to the exercise, if we go back to repository, branches, the next step here is to create a merge request. So I'm going to pick the branch that I want to merge into the main. So here we have the completed pipeline, and I'm going to go ahead and select merge request. Potentially what I'm doing here is I'm asking GitLab to take my new configuration, my new pipeline configuration, and start to think about merging that into the main value stream, the main pipeline, main branch, sorry. A few things to note about the new merge request. You can leave everything as it is, but most importantly, please uncheck the delete source branch when merge request is accepted. This will allow you to go back and make more updates to that branch if you wish, and make later merge requests also. So just to recap, I'll come back to repository, branches. I'm going to select merge request. I'm going to scroll down and ensure that the delete source branch when merge request is disabled. And then I'm going to go ahead and click create merge request. And once you've done that, GitLab will go ahead and just process the merge request itself and set up ready for merging. Now, in itself, this is a very straightforward process and a standard part of our sort of workflow. What we like to do, though, is allow the merge request approvers to make an informed decision. Now, because we've copied a project in, it would be good to kick off the pipeline one time, just so we have some output, some information about the state of the branch and where it's at. So the last task here will be to do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the CI/CD pipelines item, and we're going to select run pipeline. Now this enables us to just simply trigger the pipeline. I'd like you to select the completed pipeline branch. So from the drop down, completed pipeline, and I'll just take a pause here. Hope everyone is keeping up. Please shout if you are stuck. Okay. If you manage to make it into the CI/CD menu, to the pipelines, select the branch we want to run a pipeline in this branch. I'm going to click the run pipeline, and that will activate the runners. And as you can see, we've actually kicked off the pipeline. And as that runs, we'll get real-time updates. You can see already things have started. This will take probably about 5 to 10 minutes. So leave this on your screen if you wish. I'll just come back to the slides. Okay. Great time to take our first pit stop. I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule. That's fine. If you want to take a quick break, I'm going to put on a timer. We can take a 10-minute break. There's a lot to take on board there. I recommend getting up, walking around. We've got another couple of, well, we've got another 2 hours left. So please do move about and get some circulation. I know I will. I'm going to put a timer up on the screen and we'll just take a countdown on that. Again, if you have got stuck on anything or anything not looking right, please reach out on the Q&A. Our panelists are there. I have a big timer here. I'll set that to 10 minutes and I'll kick that off. Cool. See you back in 10 minutes. can see by the countdown timer, we're going to resume again in just a few moments. I guess just before we kick off, I'm going to launch the next poll. Give you plenty of time to answer that, but and our next poll will ask you a very simple question. Where are you currently using on your DevSecOps journey? So how's it going? Quite a few responding. I'll leave the poll open for a few more minutes. And if you just joined us back, I've kicked off a poll asking what you're currently using on your DevSecOps journey. It's multiple choice, so select which ones are relevant. You see quite a few of you responded to that already. I'll share the results in a moment. Oh, I think we're pretty much there with the countdown. Let me reset that, and we'll jump straight back in. Okay. Bing, bing. There we go. Fantastic. So thanks for those of you that responded on the poll. Share the results there. Quite interesting. A resounding 95% of you that have responded have indicated that you're already using scanners in your pipeline. Good stuff. Next popular ones, the security policies and dependency compliance policies. We will be going over those in the next couple of laps. Interestingly enough, the lowest score of ones are the compliance framework, and also people not scoring highly that they're currently using GitLab for security compliance. So hopefully this webinar will give you some ideas on how GitLab can be useful in that area. Excellent. Well, thank you for your participation. Let's move on. On to lap 2. Hope you managed to enjoy a little break and reflect on some of the stuff we covered in the first section. We basically got ourselves set up. Do not forget we have our QA panel there. If you need anything, please raise a question. I keep mentioning it, but yeah. We are moving into lap 3, where we'll explore our compliance framework. But just a quick recap on shifting left. We've been able to set up security scanning by examining the CI/CD pipeline associated with the project, and we started a merge request to bringing the new shifted left scanning features into the main branch. Again, that's been running in the background, and we'll move on with our workshop. So let's move on to the next lap, which will be the compliance framework. Why can I see so many developers slumping back into their seats with a fearful groan? Don't worry, folks. GitLab should make this nice and easy. So lap 2, here we go. We're making great progress. We've got a new pipeline defined, and with the relevant security tests, we now want to ensure that all our developers are abiding with the security best practices. To do this, we're going to enable a compliance framework for our project. With this, we can ensure the right jobs are executed in the correct order, and this will help devs skip a few steps when pushing out new features. GitLab has developed each of our compliance features to enable you to abide by the compliance policies listed here on this slide. I'm sure some of you are familiar with these, and they may vary from region to region. GitLab supports compliant framework templates that map to specific audit protocols, such as HIPAA. There are also compliance framework project labels, so compliance settings can be easily applied to all projects with that label. And finally, compliance pipelines define which compliance jobs should be present in every CI/CD pipeline execution, making the compliance implicit in the software delivery lifecycle. This ensures auditing is enforced and elected security scans are run and relevant artifacts are generated and stored reports. Plus, you're able to enable any other steps or functionality to meet your organizational standards. We can dive straight into lap 2 with our hands-on exercise. If you'd like to browse back to the original project and get ourselves into issue 2, we can explore what we're going to be doing. I'm just going to browse back into the issues. And at the bottom here, you can see issue number 2, compliance framework. To give you all a few seconds to get onto that page. Hopefully you've all found it. Please shout if not. In fact, what I will do, I will just quickly link you this in the chat window. Thanks, Logan. Brilliant. Okay. So in this particular exercise, we're going to be creating a compliance framework that will ensure our pipeline runs correct jobs in the right order. So let's step through it. First, in the new tab, we're going to navigate to see the compliance frameworks. I'm going to just open that in the new tab as such. Okay. When you open that new tab, you'll be presented with the following page. You can have a look at the stages section. Second, I mean, it's a bit wider, you can see it. Okay. Just trying to find the stages section on here. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to go into the CI/CD pipelines. 1 second. Sorry, Logan, I don't seem to see the stages section here. Do you mind chipping in?
Yeah, if you go to the main project page quick.
Yep.
You should be able to then just click into it from there.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yep.
Sorry, let me just run through that again. So if we click back into the main project, here you can see that there is a compliance file. And here, if you look at stages, as mentioned in the task, the there is a .pre stage. Note that the .pre stage starts with a dot, so it doesn't have to be defined to be run. Below the stages, we define a simple compliance job that will run during the pre-stage, and it just prints out a message letting the user know the framework has been applied. Lastly, at the end of the YAML, the include section allows pipelines that the framework is applied to build off, allows the pipelines that the framework is applied on to build off the job definitions. Without this, the framework would replace the GitLab YAML.ci. Step number 2, applying the framework. We can just close this tab. This is the source. And we can go back to our project. And let me just resize this one. If we go back to our workshop project, and if we go through to the settings menu, and we go to general, and we can scroll down to compliance framework. Here we can click expand, and we have the ability to select our compliance framework. We're going to go ahead and click the drop down, and in here we're going to select the security and compliance workshop. Once we've selected that, we can save changes. Just to run through that again, we can go to the settings, general. On the general page, we go down to the compliance framework. We're going to expand it. We're going to select from the drop down the security and compliance workshop, and then we're going to click the save changes. I'm going to go ahead and click that now. Now we can go back to project screen. And you can see that we've been tagged with the compliance framework. And that means that this has been applied. Future pipeline operations will now include that framework capability. Fantastic. That was a very quick lap 2. And we can move on to lap 3. And just to recap there, just had a quick look to see how we can extend our CI/CD configuration with the compliance framework actions, simply by applying the framework tag in the project settings. This should ensure the relevant guardrails for our budding developers can really shift up a gear and focus more on what they really love doing, solving problems with code. I can take a brief pause if people just want to check in. Hopefully you made it through that exercise okay. Do give me a done or a thumbs up in the chat window. And we'll move on to lap 4. Okay. Fantastic. Our content designers have made good effort to make sure that these workshops are pretty straightforward and hopefully not too taxing, even after lunch. Cool, let's move on to lap 4. If you remember back on lap 1, we actually created a merge request, and then we kicked off, or we started our new CI/CD pipeline. This was running in the background, so now's a good time to go back and have a look at those scan results and think about any policies we'll need to prevent security risks in the future. So let's move it up a gear and get on to look towards making a new track record on this lap. Before we do that, I can see my slide here is not playing ball today, so I have a mixture of bullet points and numbers, but we'll work through that. What type of security scanners do we use? And I think judging by the earlier poll, this is not news to all of you, but I'll just highlight the available types. We do have static application security testing that will look through our code for vulnerabilities that exist. And actually with GitLab CI, we can also define other static code analyzers, things that can check the code quality. If you're actually adhering to any code layout policies, you may already be using some of these. A good example here might be PEP8 for Python for layout as well. We also have DAST, the dynamic application security testing. This analyzes a copy of our built, deployed, and running application. It can look for any known vulnerabilities accessible during the execution application. So basically, this is how our hackers could get into the system. Container scanning. Looking for any known vulnerabilities in the built container artifact, as well as the image that is housing application. Remember, a good portion of the problems don't necessarily come from your code, but where our application resides or how it is built. We also have dependency scanning. This is what I do when working from home and looking for my kids. But this type of scanner, however, looks at the open source components within the project and checks for any issues in those components that have been reported. We have license scanning, similar to being stopped by the police. Sorry, who wrote these slides again, Logan? In our case, this scanner checks the licenses associated with any of the discovered open source components. It's possible to check if any licenses used violate any policies set forth by the company or specific organizations. I think a big topic, but license like GPL version 3 can quickly cause legal headaches if you're selling software that has GPL v3 license components and you haven't open sourced your product either. We also have secrets detection. This is a fun one. This type of scanner can look for any credentials or secrets accidentally left in your code. This may have open doors for hackers or Bitcoin miners. We've seen the results of secrets in public repositories and it isn't good. This type of scanner is becoming very popular for projects with infrastructure as code. Okay, I think that covers us for generic sort of scanner discussion and their purpose, of course. As our industry evolves at the rapid pace it does, more and more tools and techniques and technologies are always appearing. And here at GitLab, we're always ensuring and working with our partners and open source community to help progress the best practices and policies, whilst keeping our product flexible enough to adapt to the coming changes. Okay, let's talk more about shifting left. Our GitLab product can trigger the CI/CD pipeline under various definable conditions. More regularly with this source code, this is with source code commit or a merge request trigger. That's where you merge source code between branches. Now we do have separate advanced CI/CD workshop, which I would advise keep an eye out for if you're interested on this topic. I can highly recommend attending, and you can get really into the nitty-gritty of GitLab CI/CD configuration. But for the sake of this workshop, just going to briefly show you where during the CI/CD phases, the various scanners are actually executed. You can see here from the diagram, the various scanning types and which part of the build chain we usually execute them. Much of the static and verifying scans are performed at the commit stage. This enables the quickest feedback to the developer whilst ensuring no waste in computer resource attempting to perform later stage scanning is unnecessarily. Suffice to say, each scanner will usually output a machine readable report from its findings, which can be processed by GitLab to help you flag any issues. That's right, folk, on the Tanuki racetrack, engine and tire checks are fully automated for rapid pit stop turnaround. Next topic, we'll talk about policies. One of the many reasons lots of our customers move to GitLab is the ability to enforce ubiquitous policies across the CI/CD value stream. Being on a single platform affords us the luxury of having a single point of control. Policies can be adapted to multiple projects, and there are two types: scan results policies and scan execution policies. This brings us nicely onto our third exercise to complete the lab. Let's head over to the issue board and step through issue number 3. Put on my screen. Logan's kindly linked it into the chat. Okay. We're going to have a look at the results of the pipeline that ran earlier and see what's available. So I'm going to walk through this as I did before. Hopefully everyone has got their 2 screens up. If not, I can talk you through this. But what you'll need to be doing is going back to your project. We're going to go back to our merge requests on the side panel here. And as you can see, there's my active merge request right now. And when I click on this, because the pipeline has run, I've got some new information here available to me underneath the approval section. You can see here the code quality and license compliance and security scanning outputs we included have now fully generated reports unique to this branch. If anything was wrong, it's here, we would see it. So go ahead and take time to have a look. We're going to be covering some of these areas a bit later on in the exercise. Some of the wheels might be turning a little slower as there are a great number of you running this simultaneously on our environment, so do be patient. There we go. And you can see here already, scroll down, security report has come back identifying numerous issues. From this view, we can see exactly where it has occurred in the code, and we can read up on why it's a risk. After reviewing information, we can go ahead and comment. So if you scroll down to the bottom, we can make a comment.
James, for this part too, you want to show that you can also make a comment on a various issue, right?
Oh,
So
yes, of course. Yeah.
if you click into one of them, you can always just create an issue from the vulnerability that was scanned.
Got you. So I can click anywhere here on an existing vulnerability. I can create an issue, right? And a new issue is created. Yeah. Thanks for that, Logan. Good reminder. By creating a new issue, of course, we can start to assign that to developers to get on and resolve the problem that's been found. And I can comment and close that issue if I felt it wasn't necessary, but you get the idea of the workflow. Go back to my merge request again. Review other ones. And I'm just putting in an arbitrary comment. Sorry, Logan, I'm not seeing the comment and dismiss option. Have I missed something there?
That is also in a vulnerability report. So if
Okay,
you click into any of them, it is the little comment icon.
Yeah.
So next to dismiss, it's that. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that, guys. Yeah, okay. Cool. We can actually remove the vulnerability from the list, right? Just run through that again for those that missed that. So we can selectively look at any of these critical issues. And if I click that, one I've already done, let me pick a new one. Okay, so here is a vulnerability that's been defined, or sorry, found. It shows us which scanner found it, and we can select to dismiss the vulnerability. Most importantly, we can select to dismiss the vulnerability with a comment. And once we dismiss that, we can see that we've now reduced the number of potential. I think it's worth commenting here, once you have got control of your project, I would not expect to see so many potential vulnerabilities in a single pipeline. Of course, once you've resolved or you've just imported the project, you may have a lot to deal with. But after that, and you're on top of it, I wouldn't expect lots and lots of vulnerabilities to be introduced. Hopefully only one or two, right? I can see some questions popping up in the chat window there, and I think our panel will help out. So the next step in the workshop piece is to then go ahead and merge. By clicking this button, it will take our new pipeline and security definitions and merge them into the main pipeline. And what's happened now, we can go to CI/CD, and we can see that a pipeline has been started. We can click into this one and we can see the progress. And just a quick reminder, please use the Q&A section where our panel can better interact with your questions. Chat is not a good place to do that. Okay, so let's let those pipelines complete. Just a reminder, everyone on the webinars, pipelines will be simultaneously executing on environments, so that might slow things down a little bit, as this is only a demo environment and not a full production system. And we'll move on to step 2. Just wait a little while here. Good chance to ask some questions if you have any in the Q&A section.
James, it also might be a good time to go to another quick break, as the rest of the workshop will require this pipeline completing.
Let's do that, shall we?
Yep.
Fantastic. I'll just put up a quick timer. Let's give ourselves a 5-minute break. I think that'll be fine. And we'll come back and check on the output or the outcomes. Ooh, 50 minutes would be a bit much. I still want to do 50 minutes. Give me a break. Thank you. Bingo, there we go. So let's have a quick 5 minutes. We'll come back about 25 past and we'll continue. Let's give that pipelines a few moments to run. Thanks, everyone. Excellent. I'm just going to kick off our third poll. Very simple. As I've been asking throughout, we just want to make sure that everyone is up to speed and is okay. Some great results coming in. Stop the timer here. See where we are with our results. Still whirling away in the background. Let the poll run a bit longer. And if you're just joining us back, I have started the poll. Please let me know how you're doing. There we go. That was the timer. Excellent. Right, I'm going to share the results. Here we go. You can see here. A few of you are finding I'm going a bit too slow. It's good to see that a lot of you are happy with the pace so far, and someone's there running a bit too fast. So please, if you are feeling left behind, you can ping the panelists. Maybe we can help get you sped up if you've missed any steps. And for those of you that are going too slow, you've clearly drunk far too much coffee. That's your fault. I'm joking. I will definitely try and move things along a bit quicker. I am trying to pace myself so that people can keep up. And it's good to see that a good 67% of you think we're okay. So let's, I guess, just up it a tiny amount, but not too much, right? Fantastic. Okay, let me just get rid of the poll here. And as you can see, sorry, did I share the results? You can have a quick look yourselves. You can see on my shared screen, my pipeline has actually finished executing, which is fantastic and brings us nicely in for step number 2 of our third exercise. Yeah. So for step number 2, we need to go back and have a look at the reports. Now that the merge request is completed, the main pipeline has completed and the reports under security and compliance have been generated. These reports will only be generated if you run pipeline against main. So if I go ahead and click on the security and compliance dashboard, sorry, the security dashboard, I should have, fingers crossed, some results in there. And again, just to reiterate, we only see these results reported to the dashboard when the pipelines run on your main branch. Any pipeline runs on other branches will have their own local reports that you can view. You can keep a track over time on the vulnerabilities in the accounts. We can see if things are getting better or worse, and we can also change the time frame as well, so we can go back and have a look. Now, of course, this project was only created about an hour or so ago, so there's not much to say here. And we can see how the vulnerabilities in the pipeline view, but now let us use the left-hand navigation menu and click through the security compliance vulnerability report to see the full report. So again, security and compliance, a vulnerability report, and here we get a full breakdown. Okay. We can actually change the tool filter because we've got multiple tools running. And here we can change it to secret detection. And as you can see, there's been a few detections made within our code. On the resulting list, you can see that vulnerabilities are there. AWS tokens were added. Leaked tokens is one of the most common security breaches that occur, and all it takes is for one overprivileged token to be leaked before disaster. We can click on the vulnerability to get more details, where the token was leaked, and how to create a new bug issue to get this quickly resolved. And you can see here, it's located the file, and you can see the line number. We can actually go to that if we want. Daisy. Yep. Interesting. Yep. Snippets. Okay. Yeah. And then we can create an issue on that or update an existing. So we can create an issue which will allow our developers to address this problem. Brilliant. Take some time to explore the report. You can also look at what the other tools have uncovered. You can see here the SAST. This is the full detailed report. And as Logan's pointed out in the chat there, if you do want to go through this again, the slides are available. And you can actually go through the project issues at your own pace. So we're going to move on to step number 3. So to prevent future problems, we can set up a new policy to run on all future merge requests. We're going to use the left-hand navigation menu to click through the security compliance here. We're going to go to policies. And we're going to click new policy. So that's the security compliance, policies, and new policy. As I mentioned before, there are 2 types of policy. There's a result policy and an execution policy. We're going to create a result policy. So here we can select policy. We can give it a name. And we can build up exactly what the policy is doing. I can add myself as the approver. We can select just a secret detection. Yep. Under actions. Require approval from one of the following things. So I'm going to add myself. There I am. And then I can click configure with a merge request. And of course, what we're doing here is we're generating configuration that will go into the project. If we were to create another merge request with the leaked token still in the code base, this will be prevented until it was removed or I added my approval. Before we move on, let's get back to the project. You can use the breadcrumbs. We can go back into the project screen. Right. Excellent. Let's go back to the slides. Okay, we were going to have a longer break, but I think what I'll do is I think we can probably, we could probably just skip over this break for the minute and maybe take that again later. We are moving through quite a little bit quicker now. But before I carry on, just to recap, we've managed to explore how the GitLab platform can process and enforce policies, and how we can look at the scanning and scanning results. That will move us nicely on into lap 4, where we're going to look at license compliance and software bill of materials. As you know, with many high-level hacks appearing in the press, most governments have moved to make it law and require a software bill of materials and securing your supply chain. We've decided that it's in the best interest for Tanuki Racing that we have these reports ready to go in case we are infected by the next breach. You only need to look in the recent news and you can see lots of examples of this happening. Such events such as Circle CI, the Equifax breach, and a few others have proved very costly to those organizations. In the Equifax breach alone in 2017, an outdated version of Java Apache struts with a known vulnerability exposed 143 million personal records. The company have just recently settled for a class action lawsuit of $380 million. And we see many traditional AppSec challenges organizations are facing today. Challenges such as cost, expense on tools for each type of scan, integration, overheads on maintenance when you've got multiple tools, the legacy infrastructure versus modern infrastructure can affect speed and iteration and complexity and scaling of your development environment. Visibility and context is not always available for developers, as security, developer, and operations have different visibilities across different tools. Compliance. If you have a multi-point solution, it can be very difficult to have a compliance policy that spans all of it. And detecting risks later in the lifecycle is not good for developer experience because they usually moved on to developing other parts of the code. And again, on the screen here, just to reiterate, the examples. SolarWinds is the big one that was in the news recently. And I think Log4j is on everyone's mind and definitely talked about very heavily. So let's talk about software bill of materials. The software bill of materials provides the following information: a dependency name and version, dependency licenses, the packager used to install the dependencies, dependency hierarchy, the image scanned or linked to the package-specific lock file, and vulnerabilities that were found, the severity description and link to advanced details. The most popular format used to report SBOM in the machine is in the machine readable JSON format. And the format we use is CycloneDX. It was created by the Open Worldwide Application Web Security Project, OWASP. A few of you might be familiar with that. CycloneDX has fast become the adopted standard for SBOMs. And this is due to mainly its extensive capabilities, which far exceed those default requirements originally set up by the US government towards the end of 2021. Let's head over and do our next exercise, exercise number 4. We're going to navigate back to our issues and drill in on task 4. Here we go. And I think Logan will post the link there. We can step through this together. Thanks, Logan. Using the left-hand navigation, we're going to go through to security and compliance. And we're going to click on dependency list. This gives us a complete view of all the dependencies that are directly and indirectly included in your application. You can see already at the top here, libc version with 343 vulnerabilities detected to be quite concerning. If we click into the component, we can see all the CVEs. And you can click through to gain more information about the particular vulnerability, the impact, and more information. The information provided makes it easy to troubleshoot if you quickly need to resolve the security flaw. And there'll be more on that in a moment. Next up, you can actually export. If I just click export, it's generating a CSV. Might take a little while because there's a lot of information being compiled in there. So you can see it saved that one. And Logan, just remind me, we do have the ability to export the dependency as an SBOM. And if we go back to the dependency list, I think, if I remember rightly, here we go, yeah, exported as JSON. So going back to
in that JSON format is
yeah, exactly. So the
format.
vulnerability report can be exported as CSV, sorry. If we come back to the dependency list where the SBOM is, we can export it here in the JSON format. And again, that would be the Cyclone DX JSON format. And there's actually a link there in the task for more information about Cyclone DX. This format is widely used amongst other security management software as well. Okay, moving on to the next step. We're going to look at the license compliance. Again, over here under security compliance, we can go to the license compliance section. And we can view all the licenses that have been detected and the component that has that license present. Now, let's just say we decide we no longer want to include the MIT license, the MIT license. So we can go ahead and click on the security compliance and policies. We can simply create a new policy. Apologies, got that wrong. We're having fun here today, aren't we, Logan? Got a rookie on the case. Go back to the license compliance tab, and if we click on policies, I can add a license policy here under the license compliance area. Here I can search for MIT license. This is the license that GitLab is aware of and we can search for, and we want to click deny and submit. Now, if we click back to the detected in project, we can see that policy violation has occurred, and this is denied, and we will know which components will need to be addressed, removed, or updated to fix that. Please do post any questions, or if you've been stuck, into the Q&A section. Our panelists will help you. And then we'll move on to the next section. Lap 5. Lap 4 was some good work there. I think the management will now be super pleased with the benefits you budding security experts are already bringing to the business. So in the section we've just gone through, hopefully you've understood how we can expose the SBOM information via GitLab's interface. We were also able to quickly identify problematic software components within our applications. And we also set up a licensing policy to guard against the use of any software components that carry unwanted licenses that have legal or business risks. to our product, and we're making excellent progress. So let's we're almost near our final lap. So let's move forward. Okay, lap 5. We've secured our application. Now we can start looking at dynamic security assessment for our application. We also look at the audit events and ensure everything is working fine. Just a quick discussion on software supply chain attacks. You can see here from the report, it's quite clear that we are seeing a huge increase in these attacks year on year. And these are down to discrete backdoors or vulnerabilities that can put your business at risk. A wise man once said, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Well, the next best time is now. With software supply chain attacks ramping up, it's now or never to start securing your application. GitLab has partnered with Contra and Secure Code Warrior. These partnerships allow the GitLab platform to deliver vulnerability training right within the application. Any discovered vulnerabilities that has partner training materials offered will have a link provided to the training within the vulnerability report itself. This gives the development team access to quickly understand and resolve the vulnerability. They can design controls to proactively prevent security issues and confidently communicate and assign security issues within the engineering team. Software engineering is a continually learning process, especially in today's fast-paced world. Moves us nicely on to our penultimate exercise. We will be exploring the configuration of the dynamic and analyzing security. We will not run it because this can take up to an hour to deploy the application. So for the sake of the time of this workshop, we're just going to look at the configuration. We'll also look at the project auditing levels so that we can see what's been happening within the project. And we'll finally take a look at the scanner settings, more specifically how to enable the direct in-report vulnerability training from our partners. We'll take a moment and go back to issue number 5. And Logan, if you'd like to link that in, that'd be great. I'm going to go back to issue 5, where we have the steps for this exercise. And let's step through it together. So first up, we're going to set up the on-demand scanning for DAST. We can go through to the security and compliance on-demand scans. And we can actually click on new scan. We can give it a name, provide some descriptions. We can leave the rest blank, that's fine. Under the DAST configuration, we can select the profile, the scanner profile. Click on select scanner profile. Click on new, we can give it a name. Okay. Click on Save Profile. Fantastic. Next, we can select the site profile. We can give a new site profile. Allows us to set up target endpoints. Here we can set a target URL. So this would be the example point where our test environment would be spun up. And then we can click Save. Then we can just click Save Scan. Mostly important here, we're only clicking Save Scan. If you do save and run scan, it will try and attempt to deploy your application, which we're not going to do in this workshop. Done. So now we have the on-demand scans configured. How are we doing? If you'd just like to give a thumbs up, or if you'd like me to recap any of it, please make a comment in the chat, see how we're doing. Cool. We are coming near to the end of the 2-hour mark, so well done for staying with us and bearing with it. Brilliant. It's good to see everyone's still with me. I'm going to move on to the next step of this exercise, which is the project audit events. And here we can just have a look at those. So again, under the security and compliance, we can click on audit events. And this will allow us to get a report on all the actions taken on the project for the past month. If this report does appear empty, you may need to adjust your time frame. Obviously, because we've been running this workshop, I've got plenty of activity happening here. Not only you can see what's been happening, but you can also see where in the project hierarchy it's been happening. Okay. Next up, step 3, we can explore some extra scanner configuration. And for this, we can go to security and compliance. And this time we're going to go to the configuration option. Here you can see all the scans that have been enabled. For this exercise, we're going to go ahead and configure SAST. Take note of all the various settings here we can change about the scanner to best suit our needs. So maybe there's some other options. We can configure all the different SAS scanners that get used. A lot of these can be changed by adding variables to the pipeline, but it's often easier to change them from this view. So next up, as a part of this exercise, we're now going to go back to the vulnerability management. So still within the security compliance configuration. Where are we? We should have the vulnerability management configuration. Keep me on the straight and narrow here, Logan.
Yeah, up there.
Oh, the top here, the top.
Yes.
There we go. Thank you very much. And here we can actually enable our partner materials into the vulnerability management reports. So now our vulnerability will link out to certain security trainings if there are any related courses. You would normally find a link here. All right. That completes that exercise. We're really rolling through it now. Fantastic. I think it's a good segue to take a quick couple of minutes break. And then we'll move on to our final lap. So I'll just put a 5-minute break on there. Okay, I'll do nicely. And we'll just take a few minutes pause and we'll come back and finish off the workshop. Please, if you've got any questions or thoughts, please add them to the Q&A. There'll be, the panelists will still be there. Speak to you in a few moments. Excellent. I hope you've all enjoyed a bit of a break. I will pause the timer and we can just get back into the slides. Cool. I'm almost ready to do our final lap. I do sense a little bit of driver fatigue settling in, so I hope we're all ready to finish the race, right? Or perhaps there's a bit of presenter fatigue. Right, I'll give you all a chance to come back. Do chime in on the chat. Just let me know you're here and still alive. That'd be great. And we'll start off. Cool. We're on the home straight now. Yeah, live and kicking. Good stuff. Brilliant. I think the good news is we've shot way ahead on our timescales. We're doing really well. We're on the final lap, and we'll run through that pretty quickly anyway. So hopefully we'll get a chance for some Q&A as well. Awesome, fantastic. Okay, so just to recap from our last section, we explored the configuration of Dast on demand. We also looked at the GitLab audit events. And we also had a look at configuration of in-report vulnerability training from our partners and how to enable them. It's been a pretty epic race with some tight corners and close calls. And now we're ready for the final lap. So for this final lap, we'll be looking to transfer your hard work back into your own accounts so you can continue to explore this workshop if you need to. And as just discussed, this last lap or last task is specifically about that. You will need to move this work back into your own namespace as this group space will be deleted in 48 hours. So just a quick note here, please only transfer the project when you finish the workshop pieces. The reason for that, if you are transferring this project back into your own namespace or account space, and you do not have a GitLab Ultimate license, then you will lose some of the capabilities that we've been showing here. So some of the tasks will not work. And of course, those of you who do not yet have Ultimate licenses will be straight onto the phone to their account managers to get that checked in, right? There's also a dependency when you move the project back into your own environment about how your GitLab runners and account environments are configured. So just be aware of that. If you want to do the transfer of the project, feel free to go into the task number 6. I'm going to leave you to go through that task by yourself. If you choose to move the project back to your own namespace, and just a reminder, this environment or the environment you've been working in will be available for another 48 hours. So it might be best to wait. You'll find the task steps on issue number 6. But in the meantime, feel free to whiz around the track a few more times so you can become more familiar with the items or facilities or features that we've shown you. If you have any questions on those tasks, please feel free to reach out now. We have the Q&A panelists standing by. But once you transfer the project, you cannot bring it back again. Brilliant. So let's just close out with a bit of a conclusion. Just wanted to give you a brief summary on what we've covered in today's workshop. We explored some of the amazing capabilities that GitLab can bring to your organization, and we looked at shifting security and compliance left, reducing delivery friction and catching issues earlier in your value stream, setting up compliance frameworks to assist with reporting. We learned how to review scanning results and set policies on them. We learned how to handle our software supply chain and dig into the SBOM and set up license compliance policies. We also dug into Dast on demand configuration, access to project level audit events, and we're now able to deliver developer access to vulnerability training. Keeping skills and knowledge sharp in the face of fast-paced threats is really important. onto the next slide here. And as with all lean practices, when shifting left is done well, we ensure our code is under constant scrutiny and will immediately warn us of any problems. We can reduce friction for the developers so they can primarily focus on what they love doing, and that's creating new code. And we can lower the tool sprawl by having everything available under one single DevSecOps platform with GitLab. GitLab also provides a single pane of glass to access DevSec and Ops. And we can finally delight our compliance auditors with everything automatically in place where necessary. Wouldn't that be a miracle? Okay, believe it or not, rather fast, that brings us to the end of this particular workshop. I want to thank you all for spending time with us today, learning more about the platform. We hope you enjoyed the topic, the workshop and the topics, and have learned a few new skills, or at least have some ideas to take back with you. As mentioned earlier, this recording will be sent out to you along with a survey link via the follow-up email in just a few days' time. We really do welcome your feedback as it helps us build more fantastic workshops for the future and continually improve our content. We'd be grateful if you just take a few moments and give us your feedback on how things went for you today. I'm gonna pause now as we've got plenty of time. We can have some Q&As. So please, if there are any questions you'd like to ask, I can verbalize them, we can discuss them. Do feel free to drop off if you've finished and don't have any further questions. And we look forward to hearing your feedback. Norman's got a great question there. He's wondering if we can give him a free ultimate license as a giveaway for self-managed instances. You can certainly talk to your sales account for that, your account representative for that. Do reach out to them. There certainly are situations where we can give you an ultimate license for a period if you wish to trial it. Thanks, everyone. Brilliant. I'm glad you have all enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be the voice of the chat and thank you, James, for this workshop. It was incredibly insightful, and I'm sure everybody loved to follow along. So thanks a lot.
We'll just keep the session open a bit longer. If you have any questions or wanted to go over, just give a shout here and we can discuss that. We do have time. We will be sending out the slide deck for sure, along with links to the video and also the feedback. But yeah, I think already Logan had linked in the slide deck so you can follow yourself earlier on the chat. But we will definitely make that available to you. Here we go. Thanks, Logan. Just got to say, Logan is an excellent technical wingman. Awesome stuff, Logan. Okay. I think if there's no more questions, I shall now stop the recording. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Excellent. Okay. Thanks very much for attending, everybody, and hopefully see you again on a future workshops. Have a great afternoon or rest of your day. Thank you.